What's up, guys? Boy, FoxCast here, and welcome to an all-new episode of FoxCast Creepypasta, where today we will be taking a look at I Got Emergency Disaster Warning at School Part 2. Now, this is pretty interesting story so far. So, now the one guy, Jamie Spears, is out looking for his teacher, and things are gonna get pretty interesting from there. Let's see what kind of turn this will take. So without further ado, let's get right into this, shall we? Let's go! I Got an Emergency Disaster Warning at School, Part 2. By HHeyPeter. To my surprise, the hallway looked completely untouched from the storm that happened inside the classroom. The lockers maintained both their symmetry and their locations, remaining firmly implanted in the ground. I was confused. Why was the wind only affecting the classroom? The window wasn't open in the class, so how did the storm even get in? I began to look around the hallway, closely examining the environment for some potential evidence of the storm. The lockers looked brand new, not a dent or scratch to be seen on the entire row. Next, I checked the floor. Aside from a few dust piles in the corner of a water fountain, the floor looked completely clean. The walls looked just like they did beforehand. Chipped eggshell yellow paint, and malformed brick foundation. I turned to face the door and noticed something to the left of it. It looked like several small holes that had been drilled into the wall, about 15 centimeters apart each. They looked far too precise and deliberate to match the general wear that walls have. I crouched down and tried to look inside the holes, and I found that the holes were deep enough to penetrate the entire wall and give me a glance at the class. I could see Felipe trying to look comfortable while sitting on top of a desk, his concerned expression betraying him. Why would someone drill holes in the wall? How did they do it? I kept these questions fresh in my mind as I continued to search for Mr. Salmon. The hallways were just as vacant as when I got here. Not a soul in sight. My footsteps echoed an eerie, lonely way with each step I took. It felt like it didn't matter how many people were inside the school. I was totally alone. I made a beeline towards the main office to check if he was there. Peering through the glass, I noticed that Mr. Salmon wasn't there. Nor was the receptionist. I assumed she was hiding in her office to comply with the disaster warning over the intercom. And sure enough, the office floor was locked. I knocked a couple of times on the door, but I got no response. Excuse me? Is anyone there? I'm Jamie from Mr. Salmon's class. He hasn't returned in 10 minutes, and the disaster warning told us to stay inside an enclosed room. Is he in there? I asked, hoping to get a reply. No one responded, so I knocked again, while a frustrated sigh, knowing that I've gotten nowhere in finding him. I decided to give up on finding anyone in the main offices, and scoured the hallways, knocking on every classroom door and calling his name. I opened the first door I see, and it was empty. The second's identical, and the third, fourth, and fifth. I started to worry. Where was everyone? Most kids did not go to summer school, but I hoped I could even see a few kids. Felipe and Niall were the only two students I knew were at the school. Were they the only ones? I could have this question answered if the receptionist wasn't hiding in the office, but no such luck. I began to rack my brain for a solution. So classrooms are a bust. Calling Salmon's name got me nowhere. What am I supposed to do? I was already committed to my goal. I couldn't go back in failure. With a stoic face, I marched deeper into the hallway, waiting to continue my search. The sound of an awful squelch came from the floor as I walked, making me stop in my tracks. I looked down at my shoes and pray I didn't step on some old gum. I always hated it when people would be so lazy as to throw their gum on the ground rather than throwing it out like a normal person. It's so gross. I reluctantly lifted my shoes and saw a massive blob of beige gum stuck to it, wide enough to nearly overlap the bottom of my shoe and wrap around the sides. I cringed and hopped off towards the nearby garbage can, scraping my foot against the side and peeling it off. Thankfully, it offered little resistance, falling as one solid mass. How the hell could gum get that big? It was as big as my foot, so obviously couldn't fit in someone's mouth. I heard a similar sound as squelching, but from further down the hallway. Curious, I kept my ears peeled to see if I could hear the sound again, and my curiosity was rewarded with another squelch, closely followed by a crunch. I assumed the squelch was the gum again, but I was curious as to where the crunch sound came from. Both sounds were soft and sounded almost muffled, like it was being blocked by something. I walked towards the sounds, leaning down a narrow hallway, and into Class 2-5, an old classroom located near the bathroom. All the way I walked there, I kept spotting similar bunches of gum like the one I stepped on. They were on the floor, on the wall, some on the ceiling. I closely examined a particular spot on the wall and got a noseful of a foul scent. I recoiled and plugged my nose. The scent of rotting fruit and painted invaded my nose. I knew that gum was not supposed to smell like decay. Even the cheapest gum retained a fresh smell once it was chewed, but this had an artificial quality to it, like it had been made to smell that way, rather than that scent being an inherent quality. I noticed all of the cracks and fissures, and the thinly stretched candy smear, and came to a conclusion. This was not candy. It's plaster. It all started to come together. The strange smells, all locations of its placement. Someone just gave the school an awful plaster coating. I felt satisfied with my answer and continued to follow the sounds. The squishes and crunches became violent snaps and muddy sounding squashes. It almost sounded as if like someone was trying to break apart a chicken with their bare hands. If you know what that sounds like. I went to the open door, but the doorknob didn't move when I went to turn it. I peered into the window to see if anyone was inside, and my heart dropped. A male student was sprawled out on the floor, completely unconscious. A macabre wound smashed around his chest, tearing his shirt open and leaving a gruesome crevice that looked severe enough to break his ribs and expose his respiratory system. An enormous puddle of blood pooled around his body, snaking around his legs. Of various depths it sprayed across his body with a thick viscosity. There was a body in that classroom. I felt my knees buckle and my legs go stiff. My breath caught in my throat as I tried to open the door with all my might. It felt like the door wasn't locked, but jammed from the inside. I started pounding the door fiercely. And I kind of have to leave it off of a cliffhanger here because the next part's pretty long. So, thank you guys for watching this part of an episode of FoxCast Creepypasta. Be sure to like, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys next time.